Welcome back to another episode of the Life Podcast. I am so excited that you're here. This is week 2 of 2023 that we are dropping an episode, and this is just crazy. It's just crazy. So if you're here, you're crazy. I'm so thankful for you. And we have an interesting episode today. I'm going to dive into that in a second, but I want to make sure I let you guys know this. If you could, please like, subscribe, leave a review on the Apple Podcast, or on Apple Podcasts, comment on YouTube, like all the things, subscribe. Did I say follow? Like whatever you got to do. But I'd love for you guys to follow along and just be a part of this. So thank you guys if you are here listening to this episode. It's going to be a fun one, and I'm excited about it. So let's dive into it. I'm going to title this week's episode, What I Learned About Faith While Installing Drywall. Now, before you leave, because you're like, drywall, what does this have to do with drywall? I don't know what drywall is. I'm not a contractor. I don't do that. Before you leave, let me let you know, I also am not a contractor, just in case you weren't aware of that. But recently, let me just give you the backstory. I did some home renovation type stuff. Okay. This might sound a little rocky because, this isn't my area of expertise, but, I remodeled some stuff in my home. Long story short, my wife and I tried to take a wall out of our house. We bought a house in 2021. Here's the backstory. We bought a house in 2021, and in 2022, early 2022, we had a wall that kind of separated our living room from our dining area and kitchen area. It was already a fairly open concept in our house, but we wanted a more open concept. We wanted it to be just wide open, because that's what you do in 2023. You just want the wide open, modern look in a house. That's what we were going for. And we had a contractor come out, look at us, go up inside our ceiling to see if this is a load-bearing wall before we took it out. We wanted to make sure we were taking all the precautions necessary before taking this wall out. Our house was added on to, so one of the portions that we wanted to take out was a part that was added on. Not that that's super important to the story, but long story short, we were told that we could take this wall out. So I didn't do it right away, but one evening, early 2022, I got this feeling. And when I get a feeling, I got to do it. I got this feeling, and I looked at my wife and I said, Kinsey, what do you say we take this wall out right now? We didn't have a plan for what was going to happen after we took the wall out. We didn't have a plan to, really renovate and get things going. But I was like, I'll just take it out right now. What's the worst that could possibly happen? We'll get the drywall off. We'll start the process, right? So long story short, I took all the drywall off, and it was just the bones. It was just the 2x4s on this empty wall. Okay, there's just a couple pillars we can see. There's some outlet boxes, but we could see right through it. It was looking nice and open, and we were super excited to take this wall out of our house. Fast forward a couple months later, as we were gonna, we kind of waited a little while before we were gonna take the bones out of it, the wood, the 2x4s. And I wanted to get some extra professional advice because I'm not a contractor. I don't want to destroy my house. I have homeowner's insurance, but I don't want to have to use it. And I don't want it to be my fault if I have to use it. So I call up some people from our church who are contractors. This is different from the first person. They came and they were looking at all of our stuff. And they told us, drum roll please, you do not want to take this wall out. It was, in fact, a load-bearing wall. And that was the plot twist of the year for my wife and I. And we talked about all of our options that we could do with the wall. Maybe we could put a pillar up. We could do all these things. We don't have a lot of money to work with here. So we had some extra drywall laying around. It was probably about an 8-foot by 10-foot section of wall on both sides that needed to be re-drywalled. And we had enough that we could do that. So it wouldn't be any extra money for us to do that. So long story short, though, we were very sad about it. We wanted this wall out. We wanted there to be open space. We wanted to make our home nice and comfortable for us to live in, but it didn't happen. We weren't able to take that wall out, so I put drywall back up on it. Fast forward a few months later, because all I did was put drywall up. And when you do drywall, you got to mud it, you got to sand it, you got to tape it, you got to finish it, put texture back on it, you got to repaint it. I didn't do all that. All I did up to this point was put the drywall back up, put the sheetrock back on the wall. Fast forward a couple months, just this last Christmas break, I finally decided I was going to finish the wall. This had been probably an 8-month process from when I originally tore it out, and then I put the sheetrock back up, and now I was finally going to finish it. It was a long process. So here's what I want to tell you. A few things that I learned in the process of tearing down this wall. And if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen me working on this wall. You've probably seen me post about it because it's been an area of tension for me because it's just really annoying. I don't know what else to say about it. But anyway, I learned a few things about faith, about myself, while I was doing this drywall, and I thought, you know what a great title for an episode. A few things I learned about faith while doing drywall. So we're going with it. Number one, here's what I learned. Don't start what you're not prepared to finish. Don't start what you're not prepared to finish. Man, that's so good. Don't start what you're not prepared to finish. When I started taking this wall out, I was not prepared to finish it. I didn't know what I was going to do when I took it out. I didn't know how I was going to patch that all up. I didn't know if I was going to need to put a pillar. Like, there were a lot of things that I just didn't know that I needed to know in order to finish this wall. I wish I would have known that this was a load-bearing wall. Originally, I wouldn't even have started this project. I wouldn't even had to patch all this stuff up, and it wouldn't even have been a mess in my house. But because I wasn't prepared to start, or because I wasn't prepared to finish, I got myself in this big mess. And even after I had torn it down, we didn't put the sheetrock back up for a long time. It was driving my wife crazy. It was probably a safety hazard for the kids, leaving some exposed outlets and some, wiring and stuff that was in the wall. It just wasn't a good situation, and I wasn't prepared to finish it. But here's what happened. Here's why I got myself into the situation that I wasn't actually prepared to finish. And I think many of us get ourselves into places and situations that we aren't prepared to be in or prepared to finish. And here's why. The reason I took the wall down in the first place is because I was feeling like taking the wall down. I felt like it. I felt like grabbing a hammer and destroying some sheetrock with a hammer. I was feeling like it. Fast forward, after I took it all down, I was not feeling like putting it back up. Can I tell you that? I wasn't prepared to do it because I had started it based off of a feeling. When you start while you're feeling it, I promise you that you won't finish it. Many of y'all get hyped to read the Bible in a whole year when the new year starts. Listen, 2023 just started, and some of y'all probably made the New Year's resolution that you were going to read the entire Bible in a year. And that's great. That's not a bad thing. But can I tell you that many of us only made that decision because we were feeling it. It was the new year. We had to make a resolution. Everybody else is doing it. We were feeling like it. But now you're 2 weeks into the new year. Maybe you've missed a few days and it's not looking so good. But can I tell you why you're not going to be able to finish it? It's because you started it when you felt like starting it. You just had a feeling that you wanted to do it. But a feeling will never carry you through something. A feeling will never get you to where you want to go. You can't follow your feelings if you want to read the whole Bible because there are going to be days when you don't feel like reading. There were a lot of days where I didn't feel like fixing the wall again. Matter of fact, I'm still not quite done with it. I got to finish it and texture it as I'm recording this episode. Maybe that'll be different when the episode airs. But even if I don't feel it, I have to do it. So there's this tension that we're living in. It's this feelings versus faith, this feeling versus discipline. Sometimes you're just feeling the moment and you make a decision that you can't actually maintain in your real life reality. And that's okay. But the Bible doesn't say to live by our feelings. If it did, nothing would get done. And can I just tell you, the Bible also says that the flesh is weak. We see it over and over again. When Jesus comes to the disciples, they fall asleep. They say, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Even Paul tells us how our flesh is weak. And a lot of us, we set our goals or we decide things that we want to accomplish, and these things just aren't attainable. And this is just another problem, not because our flesh is weak, but because we set goals that are too far out of our reach, that are unreachable. We say things like, I want to read the whole Bible in a year, but you haven't even read the Bible in the last 3 months. That's not an attainable goal. You need something that you can choose, because reading the Bible in the year requires you to read like 5, 6, 7 chapters of the Bible a day when you haven't even read a verse in the last 3 months. So what makes you think that you're just going to pick up your Bible and go for it? Now, I'm just using the Bible reading as an analogy. This could go for all sorts of different things in life, okay? Not just reading the Bible. This could go for all sorts of different things about when it comes to being prepared. If you've never read the Bible before, then don't start by saying you'll read 5+ chapters a day. You're not prepared for that. You got to work your way up to that. When it came to the drywall, I was not prepared. I'd done drywall a few times in my life, but not enough to know what to do all by myself. So when I started, I wasn't prepared, and that caused me to stop. Don't start something that you can't finish. And this points to just a bigger epidemic if I'm really thinking about it, because we need to let our yes be yes. We need to let our words be true. If I say I'm going to do something, then I need to actually do it. Too many of us overcommit and we can't finish. And I think that Christians need to be people of our words. We need to be men of our words. We need to be women of our words. Otherwise, we just make liars out of ourselves, and we make a liar out of God. There's nothing worse than someone who promises something but doesn't follow through on that promise. If somebody tells me hey, let's go meet up for lunch at 12 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon, but now it's 12:30 and I'm sitting at this restaurant all by myself, that doesn't make me very happy. And maybe they had something come up, maybe they just didn't plan well, but they started something that they couldn't finish. You know what I mean? So let's be people of our word, and let's start things that we can finish. Let's not start something that we can't finish. Now, you might be enticed to start that thing, but can I tell you, unless you're prepared, unless you've done the research, then you need to hold off. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case, because sometimes I think we just need to take that first step to get the ball rolling. But what I am telling you is you need to know yourself and know, hey, if I start this now, am I actually going to finish it? Or is it just going to be something that I start and it just sits on the back burner for the next 12 months of the year? Does that make sense? I hope that this is encouraging, that my story of tearing down drywall and letting it sit for 8 months and not finishing it encourages you to be a person of your word and a person who can finish what they start. That's just number one. One thing I learned while doing drywall. Don't start what you can't finish. It goes for fighting too. If you can't finish the fight, don't start it. I got to tell my kids that all the time. My son, Luca, he's kind of a bully, but his sister's bigger than he is. And I mean, she could easily end him. You know what I mean? So I got to tell Luca, just don't start what you can't finish. Okay. Number 2. Another thing I learned from doing drywall, installing drywall. When it comes to faith, when it comes to life, and when it comes to drywall, shoot for excellence over perfection. If you know me at all, in any capacity, you know that I'm a perfectionist. I am a class A perfectionist. If I can do it to the best of my ability and do it better than anybody can do it and just make it perfect, I'm going to do it. I'm a perfectionist. But let me tell you, when it comes to taping and mudding drywall, there's no such thing as a perfect. Like, you cannot reach perfection. There's always going to be something that needs to be smoothed out, that needs to be fixed. And if you're not familiar with taping and mudding drywall, it's the process when you put sheetrock up on the wall. It's the process of making it look like one smooth, flat surface. So that way when you paint over it, you can't tell that there's 8 different sheets of drywall. It just looks like one big flat surface, okay? So taping and mudding is this process of putting tape on the seams and the joints and all the imperfections, and then putting this, essentially this adhesive over the tape and over the sheetrock, and then sanding it out until it's smooth and it's one piece. It's like putting puzzle pieces together, except for you can still see all the seams in a puzzle. On a wall, you can't. So this process is tedious, okay? It requires a professional. It doesn't require somebody like myself doing it. But when you put mud on and you flatten it out, you use a putty knife, you use a drywall knife, whatever, you flatten it out so that way it covers everything that needs to be covered and it's flat. And then when it dries, you sand the spots that need to be sanded down so that way it's flat and you're not seeing all the grooves and all the humps of the tape and all those things. Long story short, this process has caused me a lot of pain because I want to get it perfect. So I am mudding and then I'm sanding and then I sanded too much, so I have to put more mud on. And then I put too much mud on, so I have to sand it. And then I missed that spot. And I nicked that spot, so I got to put more mud. And then I got to sand it again. And then I sand. Like, the process has not stopped. And if you ask my wife, she even posted about it on Instagram. She's like, Austin has mudded and sanded this part 5 times because he's just trying to be perfect. And I'm saying this for myself right now. You can't get it perfect when you're doing mud and tape on drywall. Like, you just can't. And can I just tell you, in life, you are not going to get it perfect. You're not going to get it right 100% of the time. I wasted my time and my energy trying to get it perfect. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do things well. And I'm not saying don't try your best, but I am saying don't expect perfection. Instead, expect excellence. You guys see the difference? There's excellence, which is doing something really, really well. And then there's perfection. Now, excellence is always attainable because I can do something well and so can somebody else. I can do a lot of things well. I can't do everything perfectly, but I can do a lot of things to the best of my ability with excellence, okay? We can't achieve perfection every time, but 100% of the time, I can achieve excellence. Okay, maybe not 100% of the time, but I can achieve excellence. And that's the goal. Excellence over perfection. One of the worst ways that Christians misrepresent God to the world is through mediocre and careless work. Because a lot of us don't even expect perfection and a lot of us don't even expect excellence. A lot of people in the Christian world, we just put out bad content and we do something halfway. We don't even put that much effort into it. We get it done and then we slap the Christian label on it and say, oh, because I'm a Christian, God has to bless this thing. God has to whatever. Like, no, God didn't create us to be mediocre human beings. God created us in his image. And can I tell you what he's like? He is the ultimate creator. He's the ultimate creative. He didn't do anything halfway. Everything that he started, he finished. God is the ultimate creator. He does things perfectly, obviously, but he's a God of excellence. He doesn't do anything halfway. I can't look out at the world that he made and the trees and the mountains and the skies and be like, yeah, he really half-butted that one. No, God does everything with 100% energy and effort. Like, he kills it. He does it with excellence. But many Christians, and let me just take a nab at the Christian movie industry for a second. Now, I know this comes down to funding and the money that they have available to them, but a lot of Christian movies out there, super cheesy, not that good, very predictable, okay? Hollywood, on the other hand, is putting out incredible masterpieces like Avengers Endgame and Avatar and all these crazy movies, and that speaks. It speaks that the world is putting out higher level content and things that are more excellent than Christians are. When I see a Christian put out content like that, I'm like, I don't know if I want to follow the God that they serve, because if they can't do things excellent, like if they can't do it well, then why would I want that? Like, we need to give the world something great. We need to give them excellence. The gospel is excellent. God has made you in his image to be excellent, not mediocre. All of us have excellence inside of us. I'm not just saying that some of us are destined for it. I'm saying that all of us are. You can operate in excellence in whatever area if you are an accountant, be the best in your office. If you're a musician, be the best, like in your capacity. If there's nothing, I don't know if you've ever been to church on a Sunday morning and you listen to a preacher preach and you just know that message was not well prepared. They maybe spent 10, 15 minutes, looking over it. Maybe they didn't even bring notes and they just winged it the whole time. Like, that's not attractive. What is attractive is excellence. And I believe that if we do everything with excellence, I used to be a waiter at Denny's, and can I tell you, I was one of the best waiters that we had. I might not have been the best, but I felt like I was one of the best because I worked hard. I realized that I was representing God to the world, and what person would want a God whose people can't even treat somebody nicely, can't do their job all the way, can't clean the dishes the way they're supposed to be clean. Like, we should be doing things with excellence. Christians should be leading culture. We should be the most creative. We should have the best businesses. We should make the best music. Like, that's what I think, because God is excellent. Therefore, we should be excellent. I'm not saying to be perfect, even though the Bible says to be perfect as our Father is perfect. That means something totally different, of course. But I am saying to strive for excellence over perfection. That's what I learned just from doing drywall, by the way. So number one was, don't start what you're not prepared to finish. And then 2, shoot for excellence over perfection. And then 3 is this: don't beat yourself up if you don't get it right at first. That sounds pretty obvious, right? But here's what you need to know about me, is I hate being wrong. And even more than being wrong, I hate being bad at things. If I'm going to try something new, and if I'm going to do something new, you better believe that I'm going to work at it until I can be good at it. I hate being bad at things. You can ask anybody I've ever played a board game with. If I'm losing, if there's something, like, I will play. If it's a card game, I will play and I will try to get strategy right, and I will work hard until I can become good at something, because I hate losing and I hate being bad at things. And when it comes to drywall, you really only get one chance at it. And can I tell you, I'm not that great at it. Okay, I don't exactly know what I'm doing. The amount of YouTube videos that I have watched on mudding and taping and drywall and shooting texture is ridiculous. My entire feed, the algorithm has just started popping up videos about DIY projects and home renovation and 8 problems you make if you're a beginner doing drywall. Like, that's what my feed looks like now, because all the YouTube videos I've watched, because I want to get good at the thing that I'm doing. But I can't expect to be the best if it's only the first time that I've done it. Does that make sense? Why would I put so much pressure on myself when I've literally never done this thing before? I've never sheetrocked a whole wall and mudded and taped. I've never done it before. So how could I expect to be the best at it? I can't. And it's not fair to myself to put that kind of pressure on me. And I think many of us, we do this. We beat ourselves up when we miss the mark. We beat ourselves up when we don't get it right the first time. And I just want to tell you that it is okay to make a mistake. It's okay not to get it right the first time. God doesn't expect you to be an expert on the Bible and get it right 100% of the time. As a matter of fact, nobody does. The Bible says we've all fallen short. But what I'm here to tell you is that it is okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to not get it right the first time. Maybe you just got into that relationship and you made a mistake. Okay, whatever. Learn from it and move on. I am learning so much from this time of doing drywall and doing some of these home renovations. It's insane. The next time that something goes wrong in my house, or I have a friend that has, a similar problem to what I had and they need help, I can now go and help them because I've learned some things. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but because I've gotten it wrong, I now know that I can get it right. Because I failed and I've fallen, I can now learn from those mistakes and get up and do it better the next time. And I learned that from drywall. I'm glad that I can learn this from drywall. I hope that you are learning some things from my mistakes, from my failures. Even as this podcast goes, one of my main goals is to share some of my own mistakes and failures, so that way you might learn from it, because I didn't get it right the first time. Therefore, I want to share my experience with you, so that way maybe you can get it right, and maybe I can get it right the next time that I try the thing. So all that to say, friends, is I don't want to do drywall again. Like, I don't want to tear a wall out. I don't want to have to patch it up. I don't want to have to fix anything. I'm not a DIYer. I'm not a contractor, but yeah, it's been a fun project, to say the least. But anyway, those are 3 things that I learned from doing drywall, and hopefully maybe those encourage you a little bit and help you in your faith walk, in your own journey. But that's all I have for you guys today. And again, I just want to ask really quick for you to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, a rating. That really helps on the podcast store. But man, follow along. If you like the podcast, give me some feedback. I'd love to hear it in the comments. What are your thoughts on maybe if you know a guy who can do drywall better than me, point him my way. I've been following this guy on YouTube. His name is Vancouver Carpenter. Anyway, his is like all the videos I've been watching on drywall, and they've been super helpful. So shout out to you. You're never going to watch this or listen to this, but shout out to you, my friend. But that's all I got for you guys. We're dropping a new episode every Tuesday, so make sure you check back next Tuesday. Follow me on social media because I'm giving you updates there as well. So until then, I'll see you next time.